They say life never prepares you for certain moments. And they are right. No amount of age, experience, or even the quiet love that holds a marriage together can ready you for the second when the ground beneath your feet shifts without warning. I still remember it with painful clarity, his voice soft, hesitant, barely louder than a whisper. Josh looked at me not with the confidence of youth, but with raw vulnerability that pierced straight through the walls I had built around my heart. Can you help me with my first time? For a heartbeat, I thought I had misheard him. The silence that followed, thick and heavy in our quiet kitchen, confirmed I hadn't. In that single moment, something deep inside me cracked open. A part of me I had long buried stirred awake. I wish I could say I reacted with the composure and morality expected of a stepmother. I wish I had smiled gently, pulled him into a hug, and redirected the conversation to safer shores. But I froze, because somewhere in the hidden corners of my soul, a part of me understood exactly what he was asking. And that understanding terrified me more than anything else in my 38 years of life. This wasn't a story I ever imagined telling. It isn't one I'm proud of, yet here I am, unraveling it because the truth refuses to stay locked away any longer. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales. Unfold if you want to walk with me. Through the shadows, some truths are too haunting to face alone. To understand how I ended up here, you first have to understand the slow erosion of the woman I used to be. On paper, my life looked enviable. I'm 38, married to David for over a decade. We live in a nice house in a quiet neighborhood where the loudest sounds are sprinklers. In summer, an occasional lawnmowers. 2 cars in the driveway, bills paid on time, holidays celebrated with polite smiles. David isn't a bad man. He works hard, provides stability, fixes things around the house when reminded enough times. But real life isn't lived on paper. Somewhere along the way, the marriage had quietly died while we continued going through the motions. He comes home late most evenings, eats dinner alone in front of the television, and falls asleep on the couch more often than in our bed. The little things that once made me feel seen, the new dress I wore, the perfume I dabbed on my wrists before bed, the way I tried to keep my voice light and engaging, went unnoticed. Our conversations had shrunk to logistics, groceries, repairs, schedules. Laughter had become a distant memory. I had become background noise in my own home, a ghost drifting through rooms filled with furniture but empty of warmth. Some nights I sat at the kitchen table long after the dishes were put away, staring out the window into the dark. I wasn't waiting for anything specific anymore, just a sign. Perhaps, or permission to admit how profoundly lonely I had become. The kind of loneliness that doesn't scream, but settles deep into your bones, making every breath feel heavier. And then there was Josh, David's only child from his first marriage. His biological mother had vanished when he was small. No calls, no birthdays, no explanations. When I entered their lives, Josh was 12, shy, quiet, always hiding behind his father when I spoke to him. Over the years, that changed. I became the constant presence he could count on. I helped with homework, stayed up late quizzing him before exams, held him through his first heartbreak when a girl in his class broke his trust. I listened when he talked about his dreams, his fears, his confusion about growing up without a mother. He never called me Mom, and I never asked him to. Our bond was something quieter, deeper, a genuine connection built on years of small, everyday moments. He was 19 now, no longer the boy who hid behind his dad. He had grown tall, thoughtful, with gentle eyes that still carried some of that old vulnerability. In our emotionally barren house, Josh had become the only real light. He noticed when I sighed too heavily. He complimented the new dress. He asked how my day was, and actually listened to the answer. We shared late-night movies when David was working or too tired to care. We'd sit on opposite ends of the couch, sipping tea, quoting lines from old romantic films, laughing at the same silly scenes. Those evenings felt like stolen pockets of warmth in an otherwise cold home. But lately, subtle shifts had appeared. A glance that lingered a second too long. A brush of shoulders that neither of us moved away from. Moments where the air between us felt charged. Electric, though we both pretended otherwise. I told myself it was nothing, just my own starved imagination playing tricks. He was my stepson. I was his father's wife. The lines were clear, or so I believed. Until that Wednesday night. David had gone to bed early, as usual. The house was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of settling wood. I was in the kitchen, nursing a lukewarm cup of tea, when I heard soft footsteps on the stairs. Josh appeared barefoot, wearing an oversized hoodie that made him look both younger and somehow more grown at the same time. There was hesitation in his posture, something weighing on him. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly. "Of course," I replied, setting my mug down. We sat at the familiar kitchen table, the same one where I had once packed his lunches and helped him through tough school projects. He fidgeted with the strings of his hoodie, eyes fixed on his hands for a long time before speaking. "I think I'm ready," he said finally. "Ready for what?" I asked gently, though a strange tension had already begun coiling in my chest. "To be with someone. You know, my first time." The words hung between us. He was 19. It wasn't shocking in itself, but the way he said it, the person he was saying it to, me, made everything feel different. I took a slow breath, trying to keep my voice steady and maternal. "That's a big step, Josh. Are you nervous?" He gave a small, embarrassed laugh. "I don't want to mess it up. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm scared of being laughed at or disappointing someone." My heart squeezed. I could see the genuine fear in his eyes, the need to feel capable, wanted, worthy. I offered what I hoped were safe, reassuring words. "Everyone feels that way the first time. It's normal. The right person will understand." But he looked at me directly then, his gaze searching. "The thing is, I don't trust just anyone. I trust you. You've always understood me more than anyone else. You've always made me feel safe." The air grew thicker. I laughed nervously, trying to deflect. "Well, I've had a lot of practice taking care of you." But the words sounded hollow even to my own ears. When I reached out to place a comforting hand on his shoulder, a gesture I had done countless times before, something felt different. His skin was warm beneath the hoodie. I let my hand linger a heartbeat longer than I should have. Our eyes met again, and in that extended second, an unspoken current passed between us. I pulled back quickly, clearing my throat, forcing a smile. "You'll figure it out. You're thoughtful and kind. That's more than most people have." He nodded, but the way he watched me as he stood up to leave told me the conversation wasn't truly over. That night, after he went upstairs, I sat at the table alone for a long time. His words echoed, "I trust you." They replayed on loop, mixing with the deep loneliness I had carried for years. I told myself I was imagining things. He was seeking guidance, nothing more. I was the adult. I was supposed to protect boundaries, not blur them. But sleep didn't come easily. I lay beside David, who was already snoring softly, and found myself replaying memories. The way Josh had looked at me during our movie nights. The quiet laughter we shared. The growing distance with my husband. The lingerie ignored. The touches rejected. The conversations that never went beyond surface level. Every small rejection from David had chipped away at me until I felt invisible. Josh made me feel seen again, wanted, real. The next days blurred. I tried to act normal, but everything had shifted. I caught myself listening for his footsteps, noticing the way he ruffled his hair when focused, the curve of his shoulders as he leaned over his laptop. Guilt followed every flutter in my chest. "He's your stepson. He's 19. You raised him." But another voice whispered back, "He's a man now. And he sees you in a way David hasn't in years." Our interactions grew more frequent and charged. Movie nights resumed, but now he sat closer. Knees brushed and stayed touching. His arm rested along the back of the couch, close enough that I could feel the heat. One evening, reaching for the remote, his hand grazed my thigh. We both froze. The silence screamed. He apologized quickly, but I smiled and said it was okay. I shouldn't have. That small permission opened a door I couldn't close. Conversations deepened. He asked about love, intimacy, what women truly wanted, not just physically, but emotionally. I answered honestly, feeling valued for my experience, for being truly heard. The line between stepmother and something far more dangerous grew thinner. With every shared glance, every lingering touch, every unspoken understanding. Then came the night that changed everything. We were in the living room again. The movie had ended, but neither of us moved. The house was still. David was away on a work trip. Rain tapped softly against the windows, creating an intimate cocoon around us. Josh looked at me, his expression open and vulnerable. "Would you show me what women really like?" My heart slammed against my ribs. Time seemed to slow. I whispered that this couldn't happen, but my voice lacked conviction. The truth was, I was starving too. Starving for connection, for touch, for the feeling of being desired. A few nights later, I stopped fighting it. It started slowly, touches that lingered, hands brushing with intention, eyes that held too long. The air between us crackled. One rainy evening, with David still away, we sat on the couch in silence. His hand found mine, fingers laced. Then he leaned in. I didn't stop him. Our first kiss was hesitant, soft, then deepening with all the pent-up longing we both carried. Guilt, shame, and fear melted in the heat of the moment. We moved with tenderness, exploring slowly, learning each other in ways that felt both forbidden and inevitable. It was not rushed or frantic, but intimate, emotional, two lonely souls finding solace in the wrong place. When it was over, the weight of reality crashed down. He whispered, "I love you," twice. I couldn't respond. Silence was my only answer. The next morning brought shame like I had never known. I avoided him, replayed every second in my mind, questioned who I had become. Yet beneath the guilt, a terrifying truth lingered. I didn't fully regret it, and that scared me most of all. The days that followed felt like walking through fog, thick, disorienting, and impossible to escape. I moved through the house like a stranger in my own life. Every room carried echoes of what had happened that rainy night. The couch, where we had crossed every line. The kitchen table, where his innocent question had first planted the seed. Even my bedroom, once a place of quiet loneliness beside David, now felt haunted by guilt. Josh, on the other hand, seemed lighter. He hummed while making coffee. He left small notes or texts. "Good morning. Coffee is on the counter. Are you okay? I miss talking to you." His eyes followed me with a mixture of love and hope that twisted the knife deeper. He thought we had begun something beautiful. I knew we had destroyed everything. I avoided him as much as possible. I locked my bedroom door at night. I took long drives just to be out of the house. I buried myself in chores, cooking meals I barely touched, and pretending everything was normal when David finally returned from his trip. My husband walked through the door with his usual tired smile, kissed my cheek out of habit, and commented on how nice the house looked. He even said Josh seemed happier lately. "You two have always had that special bond," he added casually before, settling in front of the TV. The words landed like a slap. Special bond. If only he knew how special it had become. That first week after, the silence between Josh and me grew unbearable. Late one night, when David was asleep downstairs, I heard the familiar soft knock on my door, 2 gentle taps. I held my breath, heart hammering, until the footsteps retreated. The next morning, another note appeared on my pillow. "I'm ready for us." I meant what I said. "I love you." I stared at those 5 words until they blurred. Love. Was it love? Or was it a 19-year-old boy's first taste of intimacy, mixed with years of emotional closeness? And what was it for me? A desperate grasp at feeling alive again? The more I questioned it, the more the shame grew. I had been the adult. I had been the one who was supposed to draw the line. Instead, I had stepped over it with open eyes and a hungry heart. Yet in the quiet moments, when the house was empty and David was at work, memories of that night returned uninvited. The way Josh had touched me with such reverence, like I was something precious. The way he had looked at me, not as the invisible wife, but as a woman who was desired, seen, wanted. My body remembered the warmth, the tenderness, the release from years of emotional starvation. And that memory brought both ache and arousal, followed immediately by waves of self-loathing. I tried to end it. I sat him down one afternoon when David was out. The same kitchen table again. Sunlight streamed through the window, making everything feel too bright, too exposed. "Josh, what happened?" "It can't happen again. It was a mistake. I'm your stepmother, your father's wife. This is wrong on every level." He listened quietly, eyes never leaving mine. When I finished, he reached across the table and took my hand. His touch was gentle, familiar, and dangerously comforting. "I know what people would say," he said softly. "But I also know how I feel. For the first time, I feel seen. Really seen. And I see you too, the way you've been lonely. The way Dad doesn't appreciate you. I've watched it for years. That night wasn't just about me losing my virginity. It was about us finally being honest about what we've both felt." His words shook me because they were true. I had felt it for longer than I wanted to admit. The slow shift from maternal affection to something deeper, more intimate. The late-night movies where our laughter felt like foreplay. The glances, The touches we both allowed. I had been complicit long before that rainy night. We didn't touch that day, but the conversation didn't bring the clean break I had hoped for. Instead, it reopened the floodgates. Over the following weeks, the pull between us grew stronger. David's emotional absence made it easier to justify in my weakest moments. He worked longer hours. He barely looked at me. Our marriage had become a hollow shell long before Josh and I had crossed the line. One evening, when David was away again for an overnight trip, the dam broke. Josh found me in the living room, staring at nothing. He didn't say much. He simply sat beside me, closer than he should have. Our shoulders touched. Then his hand rested on my knee. I told myself I would push it away in a second. But that second never came. Instead, I turned to him and we kissed. Slowly at first. Then with the desperation of two people who knew this was wrong, but couldn't stop. This time it was different. Less hesitant, more passionate. We moved to his room, where the risk felt even greater. Clothes came off with trembling hands. I guided him again, teaching him how to touch, how to listen to a woman's body. He was a quick learner, eager, attentive, completely focused on my pleasure in a way David hadn't been in years. The intimacy was intense, emotional, and laced with the thrill of secrecy. When we finished, lying tangled in his sheets, he whispered, "I love you again." And this time I cried silently because part of me wanted to say it back. But love? Real love doesn't destroy homes. Real love doesn't betray trust so completely. I was caught between two truths: the undeniable connection we shared and the devastating reality of what we were doing. The guilt began manifesting physically. I lost appetite. Sleep became fragmented. I jumped at every sound, terrified David would somehow sense the change in the air. Josh, meanwhile, grew bolder in small ways, stolen touches when we passed in the hallway, meaningful looks across the dinner table while David ate obliviously. The danger excited me as much as it terrified me. One afternoon, I tried to create distance again. I told Josh I needed time to think, that we had to stop for the sake of the family. He agreed outwardly. But that night, he came to my room after David had fallen asleep on the couch. We were quiet, almost silent, the risk heightening every sensation. His hands explored me with growing confidence. I bit my lip to stay quiet, my body responding even as my mind screamed warnings. It was reckless. It was addictive. Afterward, as we lay there catching our breath in the darkness, I finally spoke the words I'd been avoiding. "This has to end, Josh. For real this time. If your father ever found out, it would destroy him. It would destroy all of us." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to me, his face serious in the dim light filtering through the curtains. "I know it's complicated, but I can't pretend I don't love you. Not just as a stepmom, as you, the woman who's always been there. Maybe we can be careful. Maybe when I move out for college next year, we can figure something out." His words revealed how deeply he had thought about this future, one where we continued in secret. The idea both tempted and horrified me. Part of me wanted that continuation, the passion, the feeling of being alive, the connection. But the larger part knew it was a path that led only to more pain. Weeks turned into a delicate dance of resistance and surrender. We had several more encounters, each one deepening the emotional bond while increasing the risk. David remained oblivious, wrapped up in his work and routines. His continued emotional neglect made it easier for me to rationalize my actions, even as the shame ate away at me from the inside. Eventually, the weight became too much. One quiet Sunday morning, while David was mowing the lawn outside, I sat Josh down for what I hoped would be the final conversation. "I love you too," I admitted, my voice breaking. In a way I never expected and never wanted. But this isn't sustainable. It's destroying me inside. Every time we're together, I lose another piece of who I thought I was. We have to stop, completely. Tears filled his eyes, but he nodded slowly. "I don't want to hurt you. If stopping is what you need, I'll try." We hugged for a long time, a goodbye hug that carried the memory of everything we had shared. It was painful, beautiful, and necessary. Life slowly returned to a new kind of normal. Josh started spending more time outside the house, preparing for college. David and I continued our polite coexistence, though I now carried a secret that would forever change how I saw myself. Some nights I still lie awake, replaying every moment, wondering what kind of woman I had become. A lonely wife? A confused stepmother? A woman who dared to reach for connection in the most forbidden place? I don't have neat answers. The truth remains gray, complicated, and deeply human. Loneliness can make us do things we never thought ourselves capable of. The need to be seen can override every moral boundary we once held sacred. I still love my family in my own broken way. I still care for Josh deeply. But I live every day with the knowledge of what we did and the fragile choice I made to stop before everything shattered completely. Some truths are too haunting to ignore. This is mine. I carry it quietly now, hoping that time will soften the edges, even if it never makes them disappear. And if you've ever felt invisible in your own life, if you've ever reached for warmth in the wrong places, perhaps you understand how easily the lines can blur when the heart is starving. This was our story, messy, painful, and undeniably real.